The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Did you know that some of the most sought-after food products in Asia are raised right here in the Upper Midwest? On this episode of Farm Connections, we explore the world food market and learn how area farmers are making an impact around the globe. You'll learn where some of the crops you see in the field today will end up tomorrow. Stay tuned for Farm Connections.
Welcome to Farm Connections with your host, Dan Hoffman.
Farm Connections on KSMQ, sponsored in part by the Cedars of Austin, a senior living community. We even have a retired farmers club. Independent, assisted, and memory care apartments. Learn more at cedarsofaustin.com. Will Mahler, the ag attorney, has been representing dairy farms in Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin for 37 years. Will Mahler, the ag attorney's office, is in Rochester, and Will is a proud partner of Farm Connections. Thanks, Will Mahler.
Without farmers, there would be no food, feed, fuel, or fiber to support the world's population. It's a tremendous responsibility which the farmers of the Upper Midwest take seriously. They produce products that are prized by consumers across the globe. Join me now in rural Dodge County, where I visited with two Minnesota producers who've been to China and back to seek opportunities for international trade. What an opportunity. Thanks for inviting us out here, Bruce.
Oh, you're welcome, Dan.
You just got back from a trade trip. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, this trip was back in March. We took about 16 farmers and a media person, a couple other people representing Minnesota soybean along on a See for Yourself trip to China. This is an event that we've had organized for about 8 or 9 years, where we actually try to show our farmers, our checkoff payers, what they're actually getting for their money. So, we allow them the opportunity to go firsthand to these places and see what's actually happening on their behalf.
Neat experience. Jeff, were you with?
I was given the opportunity to go along, and it was a great opportunity. Knowing that China is our largest buyer of soybeans out of the United States, I thought it was really important to kind of just see what's going on over there. You hear a lot of things, but seeing firsthand, just like the trip says, see for yourself tour. That's what it was.
So why is that important to you?
Well, it is important that we're connecting with the people that are purchasing our beans. About 55% of the soybeans out of Minnesota are exported. If you were to take away that 55%, that would take a big hit out of the production that we're trying to produce here in Minnesota with our soybeans.
What did you see when you were there?
Well, we saw a lot of different things. The infrastructure that China's got going on is just amazing what they've done in the last 10 years. And the farm size, the livestock farms are definitely getting bigger. Pretty much every farm we were on was either expanding or had plans of expansion, and they were already very big. Without a lot of regulation, it's a little easier for them to get it rolling a lot faster than it is maybe in the U.S.
Bruce, you probably saw some of the same things, but did you have different observations than Jeff?
Well, I think we all look for different things when we go to a country like that. In my case, I'd been there back in August of last year. ASA, International Marketing, and USEC, the U.S. Soybean Export Council, went over there to China to celebrate their 30th anniversary of doing trade with China and other countries. And we felt it was important to go to China just because, like Jeff said, it was our number one customer. And he mentioned, with over half of our beans being exported, China takes over half of those beans that are being exported. So, we felt it was important to have a presence there. And again, to take our farmers over there and see firsthand what was going on. And, it was kind of unique because we arranged the trip so they had an opportunity to see poultry, they had an opportunity to see swine, feeding facilities, ports and processing facilities. So there was a wide variety of what we could show our farmers and a wide variety of projects that were being funded by their checkoff dollars. And I think in the case of Minnesota soybean, it's hard for us to try to get the point across what we're actually doing for our producers behind the scenes, because you hear about Minnesota soybean or Minnesota corn and all the ag groups, but until you actually take some interest in what they're doing, it's hard to understand all the programs and projects that are going on. So we felt with the See for Yourself trip, it gives these people a first-hand chance to go over there and see what's actually happening. You know, a lot of times people ask me, well, what's your impression of China? And one word keeps coming to mind, I think of massive. You know, there's just massive potential. There's massive construction going on, massive amounts of population, with that expected to go from, I think the number is 1.3 billion to 1.6 in, you know, another 10, 20 years, something like that. So, you know, we're going to have a lot of customers over there. And if we do a good job of promoting our soybeans, showing what the value of them are, the good qualities and characteristics, point out the value of the amino acids, that the quality that we have in our beans up here compared to some other places, I think it's just going to, you know, we can show this to our farmers, what benefit it is to them. And, you know, that in turn helps us promote our product that much easier.
Do you think that the people you met with in China saw value in seeing the people that actually touched and produced the product, Bruce?
Oh, I think so, because we've hosted several trade teams from China and other countries over here, and they want to meet the people that they're buying from. That is a value to them, to know directly who they're sourcing from. It gives us an opportunity to show them how we handle the soybeans, you know, in particular, you know, how we combine them, how we haul them to town, the care we take, so that they know that they're getting the best quality they possibly can from us. Also gives us a chance to talk, like I mentioned earlier, about amino acids and the value we have there. For some reason, the Chinese put a value on color, which, you know, doesn't mean a lot to us, but, you know, you have to know their culture, and things are different over there culture-wise compared to here. So they look at a lot of those things, and when we get a chance to meet them firsthand, you know, it's like talking to you one-on-one. You know, you can get a lot more done that way than maybe sending emails or going through a second party or third party, and so it's been a great benefit to all of us.
Yeah, I think just from every group that we met with, it seemed like, you know, they were excited to have a group like us there and meet us, you know, the actual producers of their beans. And I mean, I don't know, I guess I just thought they were definitely interested in meeting firsthand and talking face to face.
And like Jeff mentioned earlier, they were talking about you know, what's going to happen in the future, and all the businesses we talked to had plans for expanding, and not just little plans, they were big plans. And along with that, when we talked about supplying soybeans to their markets over there, they encouraged us to, you know, try to grow as many beans as possible. You know, they were concerned last year with the drought that was going on around here in areas. They were concerned about the weather conditions and what the supply was going to be. So, you know, it's on their mind all the time in China. And even though they're just like anybody else, they want to get the beans as cheap as possible. You know, price is always an issue. We still have a quality product that the Chinese would like to source from us.
Well, it must have been very gratifying for each of you to see where your end product is used and to be part of feeding a larger population than just our local community. Jeff, in wrapping up, what one thing struck you as most significant on the See for Yourself tour to China?
I guess just like how westernized a lot of the agriculture is becoming in China, compared to what I guess was thinking going into it. I guess that was the biggest thing that struck me, was the amount of technology that is going in, especially into their livestock industry over there.
Thank you, Jeff. Bruce?
But I think for me the biggest thing was still that contrast. Even though China is making big strides, you know, there's still some old world type of things happening over there. You'll see all the construction that's going on, the vast apartment buildings that are being built in, and the new ports that are going up, the processing facilities that they're building. You know, they're building all this infrastructure, but yet because of the massive number of people, they still have to have jobs for all those people. And while you'll see people standing on the street next to massive new high-rise buildings, you'll also see in that same area a person with a two-wheel wooden cart and a broom made basically out of nothing but dried weeds sweeping the street. So it's such a country of contrast over there that was really interesting, that they are progressing, but knowing the population they have, their economy is booming over there, I think we've got a bright future in China.
Very interesting. Thank you so much,
Thank
Jeff.
you, Dan.
Bruce, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well,
Junko, you can tell them that you can see how dry it is. The ground is cracking up, so we could use some rain. You guys seen any yet?
でも高さもちょっとほらちょっと違うね場所により。
How do you go around?
So each one of these little flowers, that's a node where you're going to see the bean pods actually come out. Here, somebody wants to go in, go ahead. Sometimes the wheels wiggle. Yeah. This has auto steer.
This tractor will be used for the primary tillage in the spring, but then also for tillage in the fall. To turn the soil to make it black.
The Upper Midwest is positioned well to provide products for the global markets. Not only do our farmers produce high-quality crops, but geography, infrastructure, and trade policies also factor into this equation. To better understand how and why Minnesota does so well in international trade, I met with Charlie Poster, Assistant Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and with Joel Mathewitz, a Redwood County producer who's been to China to learn about opportunities in international trade. We want to learn about what the Minnesota Department of Ag does and what your job is, Charlie.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having us. We're really happy to be here. We'd like to talk a little bit about the economic impact agriculture has on Minnesota.
Does it have an impact?
A huge one. 1 in 5 jobs in the state of Minnesota is supported by agriculture. That's 341,000 jobs around the state. It has a $75 billion economic impact on communities just like this all across the state.
You said billion, not million, right?
That's B, that's a billion.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
We'll come back and hear more about that impact because that sounds interesting and huge. Joel, tell us what you do.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I'm a producer in Redwood County, so I raise corn and soybeans, and then recently got to travel internationally with the Minnesota soybean growers and the See for Yourself tour to China.
Excellent. And what'd you learn there?
Well, that's a huge country over in China with a great opportunity, but really one of the things I brought back was just the need for human capital. A lot of the farms there were talking about the need for employees, and in China with 1.3 billion people, you would think they would have no need for additional human capital, but it really is a concern to them as a lot of the people are leaving the real landscape to move to urban centers.
How are they compensating for that, or what's the plan?
Well, it's like any society as they continually shift. They're trying to work through that and trying to understand. So they have a great education system of educating the youth and bringing people through the system, and it's really a capitalist type of opportunity that they're trying to create. So each of the farms were looking for high knowledge employees. One of the dairies that we got to visit was a 4,000 cow dairy, had lots of employees doing a lot of manual labor, and had 6 vets on staff. And it was kind of unique when they said, hey, we hired these new vets, but when they come there, it might be the first time, even as a vet, that they had been on a dairy farm. So the lack of experience is a need that they had identified that we, take for granted, that all of our vets have a lot of experience through internships, and our grad system was just unique to see the difference in human capital.
Well, Joel, I heard you say 4,000 cows, and that might be different than what some of the audience thinks about when they think about rural China. Did you see any contrast while you were there? Well,
China's full of contrasts and contradictions. They're going from a very sustainable, from a standpoint of they all used to produce their own food locally on their own farmstead, and now as people are moving to more urban centers, they've had to become more efficient. And so vertical integration has become a huge part of China's agriculture. And so this dairy that we got to visit was completely vertically integrated, from the feed sources, milking the cows, and having their own label as far as milk and yogurt and ice cream. And dairy is a new product in China. It just hasn't been readily available because of the lack of infrastructure and electricity. Refrigeration and freezing products is not real common in the normal Chinese culture today.
Thank you, Joel.
Absolutely.
Charlie, how do you with the MDA help Joel and other producers deliver that quality product?
Well, first and foremost, it's they produce an incredible abundance. Every single Minnesota farmer produces enough food to feed 150 people. So if we tried to use that all domestically, it would create some problems. You know, Minnesota farmers and U.S. farmers help feed the world. And so we like to open markets so we can export that product all across the world.
Have we seen any difference in productivity from, say, the early 1900s to today, or even back 20 years in soybeans and other things?
Yeah, there's been an incredible increase in productivity. I'll probably let our farmer friends talk about the exact numbers, but we've really seen an increase in production from our farms.
Joel, help us with that.
Absolutely. No, I mean, even in my tenure, you know, I'm 33 years old. Thinking back of what corn or soybeans would have been yielding on the family farm growing up, might have been 150 bushel corn and 40 bushel beans, and now we're pushing that 200 consistently. We're going for 55 to 60 bushel soybeans every year. So production has gone further along with better genetics, better management techniques, and we're utilizing less resources. We're being a lot more efficient with our tillage and soil practices to make sure we conserve water, allow the plants to really fully express themselves and produce what they're intent to do. So agriculture has been extremely innovative in the last century in particular to feed the growing demand, and we need to produce more. With the global demand set to go to 9 billion people by 2050, we're going to have to produce just as much food as we've ever produced historically. So we have a huge challenge and opportunity in agriculture today, which is so exciting as a producer and somebody who wants to continue to provide the feed and fiber for this world. The opportunities are limitless.
With that kind of production gain, would we be in trouble if we didn't have markets outside of Minnesota or the United States?
Well, absolutely. Like Charlie was mentioning, we would have an abundant supply here locally. So we need transportation and infrastructure to move that commodity out of our area. So having a good locks and dam system through the Mississippi or rail systems out to the West Coast so we can get it on large ships and move it around the world is critically important to us. When you look at the importance of policy, the importance of allowing a system and capitalism to work, we're going to grow commodities and products as agriculturalists. We're going to find a way to become as efficient as possible and provide a product that our consumer is demanding. And so that's why soybeans have grown so dramatically here up in the upper Midwest, and it's because the market has asked for it. And as farmers, we're excited to tackle that challenge to produce.
Why was it important for you to travel to China as a farmer?
Well, any international experience just opens your eyes to the opportunities. Sometimes we take a lot of things for granted, and so seeing some of the challenges that other countries are faced with and say, man, I'm certainly glad we have that policy in place or this infrastructure in place is critically important. But really for me, the China opportunity was just to see the global aspect of our industry today and how soybeans I grow here are in demand halfway across the world, and what they're looking for, which is a high quality, low price product to continue to feed their large population. And you can't comprehend the landscape of China. I mean, it is a massive, massive country with a lot of people, and it's going to continue to grow.
Do you think it's a good idea to keep them well fed?
Absolutely, and I'm glad to feed them with Minnesota soybeans.
And thanks for sharing, really interesting. Charlie, any more facts on agriculture you can share?
One unexpected part of the job as the assistant commissioner is how often foreign dignitaries travel here to view our food supply and learn from our food safety systems. One of the reasons China feels comfortable buying Minnesota soybeans is that they know they're a safe, affordable product. Our food safety regimen is among the best in the world, and other states and other countries come here to learn how we do it. And so when they purchase a Minnesota product, they have real confidence that they're buying a top quality product.
Tremendously important. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Dan.
The success of Minnesota farmers on the international level can't be realized through the efforts of producers alone. Teams of advocates, policymakers, and marketers are needed to understand where opportunities are available throughout the world, and then to open up those markets so our local crops can be delivered and sold. Join me now as I visit with two people who are involved in these efforts, Tom Slonecka and Sam Ziegler from the Minnesota Soybean Growers Association and the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council. We want to learn more about agriculture, we want to learn more about soybean production, but specifically from you, Tom, what do you do?
Well, I'm the executive director for the Minnesota Soybean Association. And the Minnesota Soybean Association actually is two different groups. It's the Minnesota Growers Association and the Minnesota Research and Promotion Council. And those two groups come together underneath one header, the Minnesota Soy, and we run both research and promotion type work as well as legislative and promotional work at a national level to work on ag policy.
Why are those things important?
Well, agriculture is a big and complicated business today. And as they learned back in the 60s whenever the Growers Association was established, and in 1973 when the checkoff was established, we need groups like this to promote our products, to make sure that we're defending the types of businesses that we do, and to make sure that we're in play with the other commodity groups going forward and having a strong agricultural commodity demand for the products that we're raising.
Sam, tell me about your work. Where do you work? What do you do?
So I work for the same organizations, Minnesota Soybean Growers and Minnesota Soybean Research Promotion Council. And I'm there to help them market their products. Someone needs to represent the soybean farmer, and we're here at the grassroots level trying to make sure that their product is being marketed domestically and around the world. As soybean farmers grow more and more product, there has to be demand out there, and we're there to help create that demand.
Well, you're doing a great job of it, because we've already heard about how the production has maybe quadrupled or more, and we've got more and more acres, and we're doing a great job of producing it. And without that, we'd probably have a surplus and we'd have some real issues.
Without the international markets today, we'd be producing way too much soybeans, way too much food, way too much protein, too much oil without biodiesel. And so we've done a good job. Industry has helped as well. We're not the only ones to take credit for it. It's been a multiple effort, but we're exporting over half our soybeans out of Minnesota, which are going international. They're going through the Pacific Northwest. They're also going through the Mississippi River down to the Gulf.
Sam tells us a lot about international trade and how important it is. Is that part of the reason why your delegation went to China?
It is. We have a program called See for Yourself, and the concept behind this program is to allow soybean farmers that may or may not be involved intricately with the association or the promotion council to see what it is that we're doing with those checkoff dollars. Each and every year, Minnesota soybean producers pay a voluntary fee, which is called the checkoff. Those dollars are collected at the state level, and then they're used to fund both national and in-state programs. As production has grown, we need the new markets, as Sam has explained, throughout the world. And so we fund various other organizations to help us increase the amount of exports that we have. So from time to time, it's important that we review those programs that we're funding in other countries to make sure that we're getting a good value for our checkoff dollars. At the same time, it also works for a wonderful way for farmers to see how their investment is being used.
Did they see that in China?
Well, I sure think so. I was there with them on this last trip, and I've had the opportunity to travel abroad before, and this trip was unlike any that I've ever taken. The demand for our products, the customers that we talk to asking us to send them more, the fact that they choose Minnesota soybeans, specifically northern United States soybeans, over any other beans in the world only occurs because of the promotional work that we do.
Tom, is it only because of promotion, or are there reasons such as quality that the northern grown soybeans are in demand?
Well, it's really both. China has a culture of relationships, and as we meet more and more of our direct customers, they like what they see of Americans, and they like what they see of Minnesotans. You know, we're fun people, and they like to do business with people that they can trust and that they have a good relationship with. So I think relationships are a very important part of the overall promotion program. As far as quality goes, they're business people just like we are. They need to have a product that is processing properly. It's a product that their consumers like to see. And northern beans from Minnesota have a tendency to mill more easily than beans from South America, which is a little softer bean. And they've come to realize that the quality of our beans is what their customers want.
Sam, earlier it was mentioned amino acids play a part in the quality of the soybean and the demand. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I can, Dan. what we have going on for the past over 100 years is soybeans have been sold on crude protein, okay? But when it comes to our customers that really consume our product, it's animals. And animals need the essential amino acids for growing, not the crude protein. And we've been doing a lot of work on essential amino acids and talking to our customers around the world saying, you should really consider measuring amino acids with crude protein, because crude protein is not telling them the whole story. So they think they're getting XY product based upon crude protein, but the amino acid measurements can show difference, and that's really what our animals need. So we're trying to get out there and tell them that please look at amino acids, because you'll find that Minnesota and northern soybeans are very good balance with the essentials.
Tom, any last comments or thoughts from China or your work at the soybean growers you'd like to share?
Well, we really appreciate the opportunity to express some of the things that we've learned to your audience, and I would ask that everyone give a farmer a break when they're driving on those roads. Harvest will be coming soon, and we're just out there producing the food that we all need.
It's certainly an important part of our economy and daily food menu. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Sam, thank you
Thank
very
you, Dan.
much.
Appreciate it.
Who would have guessed that Minnesota soybeans could be so prized in markets throughout Asia? It's gratifying to know that our familiar local farmer can have such a far-reaching impact, another fact about agriculture that makes me proud to be part of this industry. Please come back next time for more Farm Connections.